Hey, everybody, this is John Melly with the Voiceover Marketing Podcast, and this is episode 20. And no, I don't have any music today or sound effects or catchy little drops that I like to insert in from time to time. We're going straight into the content. And the reason I don't have a lot of this stuff in the typical episode is got to do with the fact that I left my briefcase at home. And I posted in my regular Facebook page today that this morning when I got out of the shower, I decided, you know what, I'm not going to shave today. And I'm just going to go in. It's Friday. I figured I'd make it my version of a 3-day weekend. And I think that established my mindset for the day. And a lot of what I want to share with you today is about mindset. I'll get to that in a few minutes. But I think our thoughts influence a lot of our actions subconsciously throughout the day. And I really, if I look back on it, I must have said, I don't need the briefcase today. What am I going to do with that? I'm just going to work on the stuff that I have on my desk and get out at a decent time. And so here I am. But it's always good to change things up from time to time. I'm really excited to share with you that we have, as of this recording, 11,482 downloads of the Voiceover Marketing Podcast. And I want to thank you for downloading the episodes, and thank you for spending some time with me today and sharing the podcast with your friends and colleagues throughout the voiceover and production world. We do have people from all over the world. I want to give a quick shout out to some folks who recently joined the Voiceover Marketing Podcast Facebook group. A quick hello to Terry Lynn, who's the program director and midday announcer at KCVM and KCNZ. Thank you, Terry. Jamie Johnson from Melbourne, Victoria, Australia. Jamie, how are you, sir? Tracy Bond-Bird, she's at Western Kentucky University. Brett Heiberger. Hi, Brett. Art Spencer. Hey, Art, thank you. You sent me a nice note about some stuff that you'd like to have covered in the podcast. I'm going to talk about that in just a second. Mike Kozlowski, who's a financial counselor at Fort Rucker Army Community Service. How are you, Mike? Thanks for joining. And Eric Reynolds. Hey, Eric, how are you? Donya Lena from Johnson & Wales University. Ed Brady, he works at U.S. Country 99.9. And Rhonda Mitchell, who's at the University of Florida. How are you? Thank you, one and all, for joining the Voiceover Marketing Podcast group on Facebook. Great to have you. Also, a quick shout out to JP Sharma. JP, thank you so much for your nice note and comments about the podcast. I'm glad you're finding it valuable. It's great to hear from you. And Kevin Cunningham, apologies to you, sir. I had mentioned that I was going to be on the East-West Audio Body Shop Forum on Marketing earlier this week, and technology was working against me. But you had messaged me on the board saying that you attended just because I was going to be there. Thank you for that. I'm honored that you would value the content enough to set time aside out of your schedule to attend that conference. And I apologize that I wasn't able to technologically make it happen. I've been in touch with George and Dan, and we're going to try and set something up in the near future for me to get on there for the East-West Audio Body Shop. People say EWABS. I know that's the acronym. I think that's what they do. Anyway, so I'm looking forward to doing that. And again, for anybody else who went there, I apologize if you were expecting to hear from me. It just couldn't. I mean, I got on. The funny thing is, and it's funny looking back on it, but it was miserable at the time, is that I got into the forum fine. I signed on. I was chatting with everybody who was in the group. I was talking with Dan and George, and we were all checking our levels and our headphones and all that kind of stuff. And we were all set to get rocking and rolling. And then all of a sudden, it just kind of conked out on me. And it had nothing to do with what was going on their end. It was, I think my computer just decided it wasn't very happy. I unplugged my router. I unplugged this. I connected to a new hotspot at home. I mean, I tried everything. It wasn't happening. And I spent 2 hours literally trying to get back into the forum. So George and Dan reached out and said, hey, let's try this again. So I'm looking forward to that. Also want to give a quick thank you to Marion Bouquet, who bought one of the voiceover definition t-shirts. Thank you very much for doing that, Marion. And also thank you for signing up for the upcoming webinar that I'm going to be doing with John Florian at voiceoverextra.com. I'm going to talk more about that in a moment too, but thank you for doing that. I'm honored that you would make the investment of your time and your money. I've got some great content that I want to share with everybody in that webinar, and I'm going to talk a little bit about some of that content today, because some of what I want to share with people is the importance of mindset. I mentioned mindset a few moments ago and how that affects our earning ability and how we set our rates. So I want to talk a little bit about that. Before we do that, I would just want to tell you about some upcoming guests that we have to the program that I'm very excited about. Last episode, the topic was on using our personal story to market ourselves and promote ourselves in our voiceover businesses. And I referenced a video that Harry Legg had put together that talks about his story and how he uses it in his marketing efforts. And the funny thing about the last episode, episode 19, on using our personal story, I got to be honest with you, I struggled putting that one together. I actually recorded that episode 3 times before I published it. And the first attempt at it, for whatever reason, I wasn't able to put my thoughts together in a way that I was happy with, And so I erased it and started again. And that one was a little bit better, but again, it wasn't quite right. And I almost scrapped the whole concept. But the interesting thing is that I said, you know what? I'm just going to put this out there and see what people think. And that's kind of the thing that is interesting about the podcast is you put the content out there and you just see how people react to it. And we've gotten a lot of downloads on that particular episode. I think in just the week that it's been out, there have already been 322 downloads. And there have been a number of folks who have taken advantage of the opportunity to download my marketing piece that I use that is my personal story. It's my voiceover journey, how I got started in voiceovers. And I send that out to folks that I'm working with for the first time, or sometimes I give it out to current clients that I've worked with for a while, because it's a way for people to get to know me. If you would like to download that, it's free. I'll put another link in this episode, episode 20. I'll put a link to it in the show notes, and you can go and download it. It's free. Just give me your name and an email. It's on an autoresponder, and we'll send that right out to you. Another upcoming guest that we have is, I reached out to Rob Siglampaglia a little while ago. Art Spencer. Art, you had mentioned that you were interested in the legal side of the voiceover business. So I reached out to Rob, and we're going to try and set something up next week to do an interview and get him on the program to talk about the legal aspects of running a voiceover and production business. So I'm looking forward to that. Art, thank you very much for that suggestion. The other thing I mentioned just a few minutes ago was that some of you have said that you've already signed up for this webinar at voiceoverextra.com. And the title of it is called You're Not Making the Money You Think You Are, and What to Do About It. And I'm very honored that John Florian, who is the founder and the webmaster and the content aggregator for voiceoverextra.com, asked me or invited me to do a webinar. And I just want to let you know that this episode is sponsored by voiceoverextra.com. And, if you want voiceover training, you want voiceover news, how-to articles, coming events, a huge directory of industry people and resources, you just have to go online to voiceoverextra.com. That's voiceover, the letter X, TRA.com. It's the voiceover industry's daily resource for voiceover success. And would you believe that all the great info there is absolutely free? All you have to do is see for yourself. Go to voiceoverextra.com. You can visit, explore, and sign up for a free subscription today. You get emails with notices about articles, new articles that are written by voiceover talent all around the world. And I'm very happy to be affiliated with voiceoverextra.com and John Florian. When he asked me to do the webinar, I thought, okay, what do we want to talk about? And I was thinking about it, and we decided that I would talk about some information that was shared with me years ago that, frankly, for the first time someone did share it with me, I was a bit frustrated, and frankly, I was angry that no one had shared it with me before. But what it is I'm going to explain to you the way I look at the income I earn, how I spend my resources, and that is the resources of time and money, and how I value my time. And like I said, the first time someone shared that information with me, I was like, geez, how come nobody told me this before? But I also knew it made total sense. And I'm sure that if you sign up for this webinar, I think you might be a little frustrated too, but I think you'll also find out that it makes a lot of sense. So I would urge you to sign up for this webinar. It's on Wednesday, July 9th. It's going to be recorded. It's a live webinar. It's also going to be recorded if you want to view it later. And it is, John told me that it is a full recording. So you get the video and the audio. It's only $49. $49, it's like, that's less than an evening out. And I guarantee you that the information I'm going to share with you is going to help you recoup that investment countless numbers of times. So go ahead and sign up. I've put a link in the show notes to this episode for you to sign up. Please do that. It's going to be July 9th, and you're also going to receive a full recording of it. It's a webinar. I'm going to have slides. So I'm really excited to do this webinar with VoiceOverExtra.com. Before we dive into the main content, Diana Birdsall asked about how to find a good voiceover coach that you mesh with. And Diana, I think the best answer to that question is you kind of have to shop around. Don't be afraid to make an investment in your business and take some coaching lessons or workshops from various voiceover people. You'll find out pretty quickly who you can relate to pretty well. I've taken workshops with a number of voiceover instructors. Susan Berkeley is somebody. Rodney Salisbury, I've taken workshops with him. Pat Fraley is someone I've done workshops with. And there are countless others out there. Some of them do one-on-one instruction. Some of them do group trainings. Don't be afraid to try a little bit of all of those things. But the biggest thing is don't be afraid to make an investment in your business. And that's really the way I encourage people to look at, whether or not they're going to sign up for my webinar or anybody else's webinar, or sign up for coaching with a one-on-one coach or group workshops. Those are great too, because you learn by watching other performers go through copy and get critiqued on their performance and directed that you can apply to your own stuff. So even though you're not up at the microphone, you can be taking notes and learning from others' experiences. So I would encourage you to do that. Somebody once said to me, look, the best money that you can ever spend is on yourself. And that's to further your education, to learn more, take in more information. And so I would encourage you to do that. And this is actually kind of a nice segue into what I really want to talk to you about, the mindset and money. And I may ruffle some feathers here in this episode. I think at times the voiceover community, while it's very supportive of one another, there's an interesting dichotomy in the voiceover world. And it's not just this one, it's in others as well. In that there's a lot of discussion about how we can make more money, how we can get better rates. And, people kind of complain when somebody tries to lowball them and get a really low rate for a project, or try and, get a bunch of extra stuff added on. And all of that is really understandable. At the same time, I regularly see comments where some folks get really upset when somebody actually wants to charge for something in the voiceover industry. I'll reference this webinar that I'm giving, and I'll reference a couple of other things. And so, we can't have our cake and eat it too all the time. If we want to have higher rates and be treated professionally and not get taken advantage of, then we need to do that. We need to set our rates accordingly. At the same time, we can't get upset when someone wants to charge money for a program. There's another thing out in the voiceover world now, and I've reached out to the folks who have founded the Voice Arts Awards. I saw several comments from people who were upset that there was an entry fee to enter a sample in and be considered for a Voice Arts Award. This isn't a new concept to me, that people submit things for prizes and that there's an entry fee. I've seen this for years. And I don't understand why people are upset about it. I saw comments about, it's elitist and it excludes people and that it should be free. And, I've reached out to the folks who created this to see if they'll come on the podcast so they can talk about the awards and all that. I hope that they will get back and we can have them on the show and we can talk about it. But these folks have invested time and money, I'm sure, and effort to create this award ceremony. And I saw a lot of people who were like, yeah, this is terrific. This is awesome. Now, I have not submitted the podcast for consideration for an award because I want to stay impartial. Somebody said, hey, you should submit your podcast. But I really want to talk to these folks, so I want to be impartial. So I'm not going to submit the podcast. But it was interesting to see the reaction from both sides. There were people like, this is great. And then there were people like, how can you charge for this? This is terrible. And I think it's a frame of reference. If we want to earn money, we can't be upset when other people want to earn money too. And, it's a nonprofit. And I'm sure the folks who are running the nonprofit are going to get paid to run this event. I mean, it costs time and money and effort. And I'm sure they have vendors that they need to pay to make this happen. They're giving out trophies, or statues or whatever. They're giving out awards. They got to pay for that somehow. So what if we were to think about this in a different way? What if we were to think about the entry fee as a marketing expense? What if you were to win in your category and you could say and take a picture of your award and your trophy and say that you are an award-winning voiceover artist or a producer, all the different categories that they've got set up for this awards program? It's quite impressive. What if we looked at that as a marketing expense? What if we were to say you were an award-winning voice talent and you could say that to prospective clients and your current clients, and you had a small entry fee to pay to even be considered? Doesn't mean you're going to win, but you're going to be considered. This isn't anything new. Entry fees for submission into contests happens all the time in audio production and radio production. The awards programs that are on the major networks, those are all owned by the networks. They're money makers for the TV networks. So like the Country Music Awards, the Oscars, all of that, there's all money there. It doesn't just happen for nothing. There are costs. But I want to explore this topic of mindset as to why we would get upset with somebody who wants to charge for a service. And if you look at this arts award as a service, it's a real opportunity for you to position yourself well in the industry. I've said this before, but rather than an entry fee, what if we looked at it as a marketing expense? Something to think about. But why is it that people get upset? And people were upset. The comments were very strong on both sides. John Florian and I, we were preparing the content for the webinar I'm going to be giving on July 9th, and we put out the early bird special, which has already passed, but we got some comments. We got some people to sign up, which is great, so you should join the party because it's going to be a lot of fun. But we also got comments from people saying that they love voiceoverextra.com, but I'm looking at the email right now. And this said, I'm not going to mention who sent this, but so I'm referencing it. The title of the webinar alone should be an indication of the cost. Now, the title of the webinar is You're Not Making the Money You Think You Are and What to Do About It. So I don't know how that's an indication of the cost, but the point was that they think that a smaller price would gain more voiceover talents and that would equal more money because more people would sign up, and that they would recommend that the first 100 people that sign up would only pay $25 as opposed to $49. Well, I don't understand that logic, and I'm going to disagree with it. And I'll tell you why I'm going to disagree with it. If you take that same logic and you say, I'm going to lower all my prices, I don't want to give away too much of this seminar because I need to be respectful of John Florian because he's He's investing his time and his effort and his resources to promote this webinar, and those have costs. I am not going to give my webinar here in this podcast. The content is worth more than a podcast, which is free. And I give good content, and our guests give great content. So, but this is extra special. So I'm going to take issue with the fact that just because you have more customers means you make more money. No, it doesn't, particularly if you're going to reduce the rates. So let me share with you a personal experience that I had. Years ago, I was selected by Google.com, as one of the first 20, I think, in the country or around the world, what they called an ad creation specialist. And what they were doing was they were buying up radio time, and they were going out to their Google AdWords customers. They're heavy users of Google AdWords. And they were saying, hey, your experience with Google AdWords has been great. How would you like to get on the radio? We have professional radio commercial producers. We have a talent pool to work from that will produce these things for you, and then you can get them on the air all around the country. I don't know if it was just the U.S. or North America or whatever. Anyway, so they had kind of a casting call. They said, hey, are you one of these people? Could you do this for us? So I actually auditioned. They gave me some copy points. I had to write a script. I had to select music. I had to basically put together a demo spot for them. And then they needed me, I had to submit it for review. They judged it. And then I had to sign up for their Google checkout, and I had to become an approved vendor and all that. I was one of the first 20 that they ever approved. And what they would do was they would send us leads of Google AdWords customers who wanted to get into radio. They said, hey, this is a client. I'm just going to make this up. They're an insurance company, and they want to advertise. So can you put together an ad, put together a proposal of what it would cost to write, edit, voice, produce, music, sound effects, all that kind of stuff. What would it cost? So put together these proposals, and we'll let them know what your proposals are. So I did that, and I was getting leads, and I was putting together proposals. And my proposals for all of those things were coming in around $1,200. And then I look and I see other people who were Google ad creation specialists, and I was up against $100, $50, $200 for all of those things that I was going to provide for $1,200. I actually received a phone call from someone at Google. I was so impressed. I was like, do you really work for Google? Oh, yeah, we work, and this is our area and all that kind of stuff. And so they reached out to me. They said, is there anything that we can do to help you out? And I said, I don't know. So I started talking. I said, geez, this is really cool. I'm impressed that a company of that size would reach out to little old me. So we were talking, and I said, well, what do you think I could do to get some gigs? How can I close some of these proposals? And the first thing that the person said was, well, maybe you want to reduce your rates. And I thought about it. And I said, well, thanks very much. I'll consider that. I thought about it for a couple of days, and I thought, you know what? No, I'm not going to do that. And you know how many jobs I actually did? 0. I got 0. I put together a number of proposals, but I never got a gig from it. And it's the wrong environment, because it's all a bidding process. And whoever's got the lowest bid, it's not like an auction. They're like an auction. They want the highest bid, but everybody wants the lowest bid. This is to my point about disagreeing with more voiceover people in a webinar equals more money. That's not true. If you think about the person who is working for $100, let's just say they do the $100 voiceover, they write the script, they voice it, they edit it, they add music, they mix it down, all for $100. I'm doing it for $1,200. How many commercials are they going to have to produce to equal one of mine? And the answer is obviously 12. But that means they have to market more, they have to respond to more proposals, they have to close more proposals, they have to spend more time editing and they can spend less time on each project to earn the kind of income that they want to earn. Whereas if I get one client who's willing to pay me $1,200, I can devote more time to that client. I can give them a great experience. I can do several rounds of rewrites and drafts of a script. I can spend more time picking the ideal music and sound effects. I have the luxury of time to spend more time doing the read and performing the script and editing it the best way and submitting it to the client for review and approval. I do that for one client, and I can give them a great experience. Whereas the person who's doing it for $100 has got to slam through it and get it done as fast as possible so that they can keep answering proposal after proposal after proposal, hoping to close them and maybe earning the same kind of income that I would have if I had closed one. I set that standard for myself, and I didn't do it. Did I earn any money from it? No. But I didn't spend the time trying to close more deals and writing a whole bunch of proposals. You know, I wrote proposals, and my proposal was pretty standard, so I knew what I was going to do. Does this make sense? So if I had to use this person's logic, saying that if I had a lower price, I would get more voiceover people, maybe that's true, but I put a higher value on my content. Pricing can be a positioning tool. Setting your prices in a way that shows that you're serious about what you're doing. Like, how many times have you looked at a person's price, not necessarily voiceover, but in any field? You know, you get something and there's a little bit of a sticker shock and you go, huh. You know, there's a reason that there's Ferraris and Maseratis, and then there's a reason that there are Hyundais. You know, they're not the same price. They all have 4 wheels and a steering wheel and some windows and a motor. But you're not going to get a Ferrari for the price of a Hyundai. You're just not. Pricing is positioning. So if you have a higher price, people take you a little more seriously. The interesting thing about the Google AdWords, the radio AdWords thing, the program fell apart. It didn't work. They scrapped it. I wonder why. I bet there were a lot of customers out there saying, radio doesn't work for us. How many times have you produced a radio commercial saying, you've heard that, radio doesn't work for us? Well, maybe if they had a better spot, a more creatively written spot and produced spot, it might have. So smaller price would get more voiceovers. Maybe that's true. And that equals more money. No, it doesn't. I'm hammering this home. It doesn't equal more money. If I get, I'm just making up this number. If there are 10 people who sign up for $49, that's $490. If I get 10 people at $25, that's $250. If I get 20 people at $25, that's $500. Yeah, okay, if you do the math, it's more money. It's $10 more. $490 to $500. It's $10 more. So the smaller price does not equal more money. It just means more people at a lower price point. Now, I want as many people on the webinar as possible. I'm not trying to exclude anybody. But the logic of saying that a smaller price equals more voiceover people and equals more money, no. And the same mindset has to be the way that you look at your clients. Do we really want to be working 18 hours a day to try and earn money? Wouldn't it be better if we worked maybe 8 hours a day and earned that kind of money? I know that's what I would like. Everybody's talking about how they don't have any time and they want to they work hard and they want to spend more time with family. That's what this podcast is about. Doing more of the things you want to do in your life. How to leverage your time in a way that helps you do more of the things you want to do in your life. I say that at the beginning of every episode. Time is money. How do you leverage your time? You charge more for it. Does that make sense? I may have annoyed some people with this thought process in the podcast. I'm sorry if you are annoyed, but it's not going to change how I set my rates or how I value my content or how I value my time. Time is the most precious resource we have. And I love voiceover. I love audio production. It's a childhood dream come true for me. But you know what? I love my wife more. I love my family more. I like spending time with them. And the things that allow me to do that are to provide great service to my clients. I take really good care of them. They have a wonderful experience. They come back for more. They refer me to other customers. And I charge a decent rate to be able to live the life that I want to live. It's a mindset. And the mindset is everything. And there are a lot of things in our culture that work against our mindset. I wrote about this in a blog post a long time ago. I can't even remember when I wrote it. In the blog post, I mentioned a talk that I heard Rabbi Daniel Lapin give a few years ago. And he talked about the cultural influences of money and how there are a lot of things in our culture that work against a prosperity mindset. And it didn't used to be this way. It used to be that if you were successful in business, you were a hero. For some reason, the popular culture has, and there are reasons for it, there are some dirtbags out there. And I think I've talked about this before in previous episodes of the podcast, so bear with me if this is repetitive to you. But there are things in our culture that, look down on people who are successful in business, who make money, who are wealthy. And one of the things that Rabbi Lapin, I should get him on this show. We'll see if we can get him on the podcast. He talked about the importance of language. And one of the phrases that he can't stand, and I kind of agree with him now that he pointed it out, was giving back. We want to give back to the community. And the problem with that kind of language, and we're word people, language is important. So if you really think about this is important. Giving back implies that you've only been taking, that you haven't been giving something in return, that there hasn't been an even exchange. So I produce audio productions, various things. So the thought behind that is that if I were to, quote unquote, give back to the community, which a lot of businesses talk about, that means that there wasn't an even exchange between me and my client. I produced a production, I voiced a script for them that helped them accomplish their goals, that marketed their products and services, that helped them promote an event. Whatever the concept of the script was, I helped them achieve that. They were happy with it. They wrote me a check or gave me their credit card. They said, thank you. They refer me to others, especially when they refer me to others and give me testimonials. It's like I gave them more. That's my goal, is to give them more value than the dollar amount. That's really what I hope for. And I didn't feel I shortchanged them in any way. So I didn't feel the need to give back. I do make donations. I donate to different groups and organizations and people and causes that I support. But that's my choice. I choose to do that with my money. You see the subtle difference there, but it's important. And so this mindset about money is important. So kind of going full circle, I talked about how I didn't shave today because I wanted to give myself a 3-day weekend. And I think it subconsciously influenced my leaving my briefcase on the kitchen floor at home and not bringing it into the studio. I think the same subconscious thing goes on when we want to have higher rates and make more money in voiceovers. But then when we see other people who want to charge X amount for a webinar or X amount for an entry fee into a voiceover awards thing, and we get upset about that, and we get upset about their rates, then I think that subconsciously impacts our own rates and how we set those and how we value our work and our time. I don't really know what more to say about it. I think if you want to make more money in voiceovers, you need to kind of examine how you really feel about money. And I had to do this too. I was like, wow, somebody's going to pay me to do this? I think part of it is because we have so much fun doing it. It's like play, and work should be like not fun. And you think, do I have a right to charge this? Yes, you do. You're sharing your talents with people. You're helping people realize their dreams and their goals and their objectives. You're helping people build their businesses. You're helping people promote what's important to them. If they've got events or charities or whatever it is that you're voicing a script for, you're the voice. You're the voice representative of their business, their organization. How cool is that? That it's an awesome responsibility. And yeah, they hired you because they chose not to do it themselves for whatever reason. You're worth it. You are worth all the money. Money is just a tool. Money's just a tool to help you work in this world. It helps you buy food that's healthy. It helps you spend time with your family. It helps you engage in your hobbies, you know? I mean, it's called an economy. If we could do everything ourselves, we wouldn't need an economy. And this is the exchange that we give, and this is how we do it. And it's, you know, it's the difference between a Timex watch and a Rolex. You know, they have two hands, a second hand. They got gears in them to make them spin. Sometimes they have batteries. Sometimes they're self-winding. You know, they've got a wrist strap. They're both watches. But one's like $25 at the counter in some department store. And another one is like $25,000 in a jewelry store. They're both watches, but they're at totally different ends of the spectrum. I would rather be a Rolex than a Timex. That's me. I don't really know what else to say. I hope this makes sense. I would appreciate your comments and your feedback, and feel free to do so at the Voiceover Marketing Podcast Facebook group. Also, you can go to voiceovermarketingpodcast.com, click on the orange button on the right, and you can leave us a voicemail message using your microphone on your computer or your smartphone. Or you can leave comments right at voiceovermarketingpodcast.com at episode 20. Look for the links to all the resources that I've mentioned, the download of my marketing piece that tells my story. Also, if you want to sign up for the webinar that I'm giving with voiceoverextra.com, please check all that stuff out. Love to hear from you. We've got some great guests coming up in the next few weeks. Like I said, Harry Legg and Rob Siglimpaglio. And we've got more neat stuff coming down the road. So there's no outro music to this one because I'm on my 3-day weekend, right? Thanks for listening, and I will talk to you next week. Take care.